everyone. We're so glad that you're here. I am Karissa and I'm with Jonathan and Sandy. We are digital learning coaches with Keep Indiana Learning, and we have part two of our Teachers Fuel series today, all about student engagement and how to meet all learners' needs. So I'll get started with the new teacher portion, and then Jonathan will talk a little bit about 2 to 5 year teachers, and Sandy will round it out with the special population and veteran teachers. So why don't we just go ahead and get started? One of the things I love as I've been diving into it more and more is Book Creator, and talk about a way to engage students and get them writing so much that they don't want to stop. I've been in a lot of classrooms lately where I've said, okay, I think our time is up, and they're begging for more time to write. And when does that usually happen? I've used this with kindergartners all the way to 12th graders. I have a project right now that a high school chemistry class is working on. They're going to write the ABCs of chemistry for an elementary school class, and then they're going to mentor together. The high school students are going to write the story, and the elementary students are going to get to illustrate the story. So what a fun way for these high school students to mentor these younger students and to really explore across the district what Book Creator can bring. Something else that I love to use with it, John Spencer has some video writing prompts. You can find them on his site. His newsletter is free, so you can subscribe to that. You can also find them on YouTube. And they're just really great visuals on getting kids excited about writing. The one that I put down there is, what happens if you get shrunk? And he walks through the video and asks them for so many details. And it really does help kids understand the planning and the details that go into writing a really great story. So if you've not checked out Book Creator, I highly recommend you checking out Book Creator. If we move on to the second resource that I wanted to talk about today, is Expeditions in Education. And I should say that we're going to share the link to the slides and the link to our one pager, so you can click on all of these things and access these resources in the comments of this YouTube video. So you'll be able to find all of those things. Expeditions in Education is a nonprofit. The whole goal of the nonprofit is to bring the outdoors to students and teachers. And they work really closely with the National Park System. So after I've been involved the last 2 or 3 years, my students have met with park rangers all across the United States. The picture in the middle is one of my students. We did a virtual project. We met with Park Ranger Jen, who's in that picture, virtually. My kids were solving the problem with the tidal basin. It's flooding, and the cherry blossom trees, were losing them quite quickly. And I didn't even know that this was an issue. She brought it to our attention. My students created some prototypes to help solve the issue. They ended up meeting with the superintendent and other educators within the National Mall in DC. And one of my students went that spring break and found Park Ranger Jen and met up with her and got to see the tidal basin in person. And so to me, it's this unexpected joy piece where you never know when you start a project in your classroom where it's going to end up and how it's going to end up impacting these students. So I highly recommend you check out Expeditions in Education. Everything is free. There's basically a STEM challenge and a virtual field trip for almost every single national park in the US. The third and final resource I wanted to talk about really quickly is Flip. In fact, I'm wearing my Flipgrid t-shirt today. By the end of this week, we'll have taught all of our kindergartners and first graders and their teachers how to use Flip. So I'm really passionate about this free product as well. So you can do all kinds of things with Flip, but I wanted to bring to your attention that they have live events. So they could be live or recorded, but it's a way for students to meet authors and experts and athletes and all of these other people who really care deeply about education. So you can see my students met Steph Curry last year. Whether he was really there for only them or not, they really felt like he was there for them, that they met Steph Curry. We've met authors. And so I highly recommend going to the Flip page and checking out their live event listing. They had Reese Witherspoon on there today. So that's a recorded live event that you can check out. So you can always, whether you can join live or not, you can always check these out as recorded events or past events. So my students love Sharon Draper in the middle. She's the author of Out of My Mind, and that is one of my favorite books. And so she was on a couple years ago, and I show that recording every year to my students because she talks about the writing process and she talks about empathizing with her characters. And I just think it's really awesome that the kids are hearing from this celebrity author, someone, that wrote the book that they really love. There, as we're looking at the Hour of Code coming up in December, there is an event with Minecraft and NASA. So it's going to explore careers in coding, and I think that's December 7th. So I just highly recommend checking this out, engaging with the Flip Live events because I don't think you'll be disappointed. And those are my ideas. I'll pass it on to Jonathan for the next couple ideas.
Thank you, Karisa. I'm so glad you're celebrating Flip. That's one of my favorites too. I'm glad it made your list. I have 3 others that I'd love to share with you. These are in the 2 to 5 teacher category, but again, they're good for all teachers. So one of my favorite books that many of you probably have on your bookshelf already, or maybe it's the old version, is the new Art and Science of Teaching book from Dr. Robert Marzano. The reason I included this is just because there's so many ideas included in this that you can implement like right now. Like as soon as you read it, it's something you can do in your classroom to really just increase the engagement. A couple of my favorites that I pulled directly from the text, although there's in the engagement section, I think over 40 different ideas that are pretty quick and easy to implement. The 4 that I picked out that are some of my favorites is the corners activity, where you can post different questions around the room and have students kind of navigate around the room to go to those different questions to answer those. Voting with your feet, putting up a statement and having students move from the left or the right side if they agree or disagree with something that is in that statement. Doing a which one doesn't belong. This one works with lots of different content areas. In math, you could do different math tools where you are able to, excuse me, can have different math representations and ask which one doesn't belong, or you could have different characters from text that you're reading and talk about how they're alike and similar and which one doesn't belong. And then also having students pick a different point of view than what they believe and having to support that with different evidence. Those are just a few, but there's plenty more inside that text. The second one I wanted to bring up is a tech tool. I'm very sad that Jamboard is soon going to be going away, but I wanted to talk to you and share with you, if you haven't heard already, that there is a great alternative, and it is FigJam. So FigJam just actually came out with an import tool as well to put all of your old Jamboards into, but the upgraded features with this whiteboarding tool are so much better than what Jamboard had to begin with. So just a few things: there's more space for students to collaborate. There's ready-to-use templates that you as a teacher or a student can use to start. You have a lot more color options. There's widgets now, also incorporating AI. There's FigBot that you can use to help you as you're contributing to a board. You can also include GIFs and stickers. There's upgraded formatting tools, as well as it's now integrating with Google Meet, which is really, really exciting. Our district uses Google Meet, and sometimes when you have to go to, if you only have one screen and you're sharing your screen, you can't see your students. With integration, you can see your students and work on that whiteboard at the same time. So it's very, very exciting. The last one I wanted to share with you is EduProtocols. If you haven't heard of EduProtocols, they're really awesome because they're frames that you can use again and again within your lessons. So there's 3 books that I've kind of got shown over on the right, but there's plenty more that they're constantly adding that are more content specific. 3 of my favorite EduProtocols are listed here. Bookakucha, I love doing this one with students because they're just creating a quick 4 or 5 slide presentation about a book that they're reading, and then they get 20 seconds per slide to share and present. It allows you to get through a whole class of students presenting in about 20 to 30 minutes, where we know sometimes that can go on forever and we lose engagement because it goes on forever and ever. Iron Chef is a lot of fun because you put students in a collaborative Google Slides presentation, and there will be articles that each student is claiming and reading and answering questions. And at the end, they collaborate and share on what they learned from those articles. There's a time limit element to it also, which increases that engagement to work through it quickly and create some excitement. And then my favorite is a no tech tool that's an Edge protocol, and it's called Speed Geeking. It's similar to speed dating, but it is having conversations around different things that we're learning, where students quickly have a conversation about it and then switch. So Edge protocols, definitely check those out. There's tons more, but again, those are my top 3. Sandy, what do you have for us?
Tough to follow those. Those are great ones that you all came up with. Karisa, I love the idea of book creator going from K-12. What an awesome way to bring different levels together. Such a neat idea. And Jonathan, Which One Doesn't Belong is one of my favorites as well. And I love just being able to search the Which One Doesn't Belong website and hearing kids talk about why they think which one doesn't belong. It can be academic or just kind of that social conversation. So I think that's great. So I really want to say that I focused mine on special populations this time, really thinking about our students with special needs and our English language learners. So one of the first ones that I really wanted to mention is our Keep Indiana Learning website. We have already created resources out there on so many different topics specific to different content areas or your role, if you're a counselor or a middle-aged teacher, middle school teacher. Just look up at the Keep Indiana Learning website and you can find so many different ones. Lots of them are for PGP points. A couple that I wanted to highlight were UDL and the 5 E's of digital learning. And then I wrote a blog a few years ago about engagement. And it's more than just a buzzword. One of the things that I really talk about is that we've all hit on is that engagement is more than just that word. It's the act of engagement. We have to remember that for our kids to be actively engaged, that's how they're going to remember the information that we're sharing, not just that engaged learner that's going to sit back and show you that they're engaged. So make sure that you check out the Keep Indiana Learning resources. And Jonathan, let's go ahead and go to the next one. This next one was an article about really thinking about how we engage our EL learners. And my big takeaways from this were that our EL learners sharing in the classroom can really come out as a big risk for them. As for all students, I think one of the things to think about is this is really what's best for all students, but really remembering that they are lots of times doing translating in their head. They're bringing in a lot of maybe outside stress that some of our other students stress might look different. So sharing in the classroom is that risk of, am I going to say it wrong? Do I have the incorrect answer? What are my peers going to feel when they hear my accent? What do I do if I don't know the word that goes with it? So we want to make sure our classroom climate feels welcoming and encouraging. And so that was one of the things that I really took out of this article. Another one that I really stood out was high cognition and quick activity that feels welcoming and grounds newly. Sorry, Jonathan, will you pop backwards for me? Sorry about that. Was the high cognition and high engagement gets maximum learning. So when we think about, again, what that engagement looks like, we really want that high level thinking and keeping that engaging classroom going to get the most out of the learning. And the last one is technology is an invaluable resource for our EL learners. Did I lose you all? Sorry. Okay. So for that one, it is really that our learners using our technology and user help learners continue to find ways to access content and information equally. All right, Jonathan, let's go on to the next slide. And it looks like I am frozen a little bit, so I'm going to jump to our other document.
We can still hear you and see you okay. We have switched slides, though.
Okay, perfect. Let me switch slides on on a different. There we go. Okay, so this next one is about making our our classrooms inclusive for our multilingual learners. And this is a video. And a couple of things, again, that stood out to me is as we help our students learn English, we need to make sure that we are highlighting, celebrating, and really reminding them to continue their first language. So in order to keep that engagement going with celebrating their language, it might be having them share a word out in their own language if they're comfortable. That's really what I wanted to highlight here too. It's not always turning to our English language learners and saying, hey, can you say this in your native language? That's that risk that maybe they don't want to feel. But if they're comfortable, have them celebrate and extend their language. If it's comfortable, have them share about their own environment, how they do different things at home that might be different from other students. Another one is to incorporate a quick activity that feels welcoming and grounds the newly learned terms. Again, asking them if they're comfortable. Hey, what's a pineapple in Spanish? How do you say pumpkin in German? And then helping them maybe put those pieces together, making those connections. And the last one that I think is really best for all students is how do we utilize layered questioning? Really thinking about scaffolding our questioning so that we are giving our learners the chance to respond to their ability. So really thinking about how that helps to engage our English language learners. And let's go on to the next slide. The last one that I really wanted to talk about for our special populations was really for our students with special needs, and that's the QFT questioning technique. So this last resource, it talks about an article. It's an article that talks about a teacher who implemented this with her students. And some things that stood out with that were that the students, to start with, they felt comfortable because they were asking as many questions as possible without judgment. And I think that that's really key because when we talk about our students with special needs, unfortunately, many of times they felt that judgment. So for them to be able to just share thoughts and ideas without judgment is really empowering for them. And this teacher speaks about how it made her students feel comfortable because they knew that they weren't being judged. And then every question is written down. This also allows the students to do deep thinking and questioning. So instead of having to push our students to get to that next level, by letting them just kind of share all of the questions that they have, you're going to be able to pull out those ideas and that deep thinking that you want to help continue to engage the rest of the conversation. And in the end, it's about having our students value themselves. And so by doing this, it builds up the confidence for our students with special needs and helps them continue to build their confidence and be able to share out in front of all of those students. And when they do that, I think that goes back to that beginning one that I talked about of it gives them the confidence to take that risk to share out because it's scary to share and to engage in a conversation with your peers when you feel like maybe you're not totally right. So that was the question formulation technique. And you can click on that. All right. And so lastly, to just finish up, thank you all for joining us. Just this quick snippet of how do you keep your students actively engaged in this almost into the semester. We know the next month is going to be hard as we wrap up November today, but just really think about that you can keep those students going through the remainder of the semester. It's dark out, it's gloomy. Keep that engagement and keep that fun in the classroom. Keep them using Book Creator and doing Flip and utilizing which one doesn't fit so that they are wanting to come and engage actively in your classroom. We would love your feedback, so feel free to scan the QR code and give us any feedback from today. And we are excited to wrap up the semester with you all in December when we are going to be talking about fatigue and being intentional and how we bring the joy to the remainder of the semester. So make sure you check us out in December. And then Jonathan, if you want to go to the last slide. So here are QR codes to all of our information. Make sure that you follow Keep Indiana Learning on Twitter, X, Keep Indiana Learning on Instagram, Facebook, all the different ways. And again, make sure you check out all of these resources at keepindianalearning.org. So thank you, Jonathan, Karisa. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you again in December. Bye.